Prop.
Yeah, I needed a prop. So, I don't tell this story very often. In fact, I haven't told it in a long time. I've always felt like this was a safe environment to tell it in, and it was a good opportunity for me to get it off my chest. I may get emotional telling the story, so I hope you'll bear with me. I don't expect you to sympathize with me, but hopefully you'll understand why I did what I did. This is a true story. It's a love story, and it ends tragically. I don't know where you were on May 25th, 1985. I was in a award ceremony with my wife at the time, and 40 college-age women. You see, I was a rowing coach. I was the head women's rowing coach at Princeton University, and we'd had a very successful season, and we were celebrating that success. And you know, there are a lot of temptations out there for a young man, and I thought I was stronger than that. But tonight proved me wrong. See, the first time I saw her, she was up on the dais with the captains, and the captains were in the process of giving me my year-end gift, which, you know, typically is a tie or a sweater or some kind of plaque, but they were going on about what an extraordinary season this was and that it deserved an extraordinary gift. There was this monster box up there. She just popped out, walked right out, no fear, no care in the world, like she owned the place. She was the most beautiful 25-pound Yorkshire pig I've ever seen. Her name was Hammer. I know it's cliche, but when she looked at me and my eyes met hers, my heart leaped. It was just about that time that my wife stood up and said, "Oh no, you shouldn't have." And the girls go, "Oh no, we're glad to do that. We're very happy to give the pig to him. I'm sure you'll enjoy it." She goes, "No, you should not have. I don't want a damn pig." You see, for the last couple of years, I've been experimenting with being an animal owner, animal farmer, and I have absolutely no experience in it. And like every city kid, I thought, hey, how hard could it be? So I had chickens, and I had goats, and I had cows, and I had horses. None of it ended well, and my poor wife had to deal with all of it. And so I don't know, I can't imagine a lot of you have had the experience of raising a pig. It's a life-changing experience, that and going to Japan. One of the real complications I had with my pig was that I had a Cocker Spaniel named Peanut. Now Peanut now is more like 7 years old, and for 7 years, he and I were inseparable. We went to work together, we were in the car together, we ran together, we were buddies, pure buddies. And my hope and dream was that Hammer and Peanut became inseparable as well, that we were a little trio together. To say I was disappointed would be an understatement. First morning I had Hammer, I took her out and I got her cleaned up, and we put her out in the yard. It was just a magnificent May day, and I laid down in the grass and she just rooted around a little bit. Peanut came over and laid down next to me. Hammer stopped, assessed the situation, scurried right over, got between me and the dog, and just pushed Peanut over and laid on my chest. The gauntlet had been thrown. Now, in the discussion of everything, Hammer was pretty sure she was going to live in the house, and I did not think that was a bad idea. After a very short conversation with my wife and Peanut, that idea was trashed. And we were lucky enough, we had about a half-acre field that was fenced in. It had a little stream running through it, and it had a little shed at the end that we could keep around. And so she fit in there perfectly. And for 3 months, it was ideal. It was a delight to have her. She would poop in the far corner, cleanest animal I've ever seen. Pooped in the far corner, bathed in the stream, lived in that little hay bed we made for her, and was almost impossible not to. She was incredibly affectionate, always wanted your attention, was dying for a ear rub or a belly rub or a butt scratch, and she made the most incredible little squeal, oink noises in anticipation and while you were doing it. So it was a joy to be around her. But of course, again, I didn't know anything about raising a pig. I didn't know what the hell you'd feed them. So with no Google at the time, I had to do a little footwork and research, and I find that Purina, besides making cereal and maybe puppy chow, they make pig chow. So one of my favorite activities was making her food. I went to the feed store. Cracked corn was another ingredient to my little morning mixture. So I had a big 50-pound bag of cracked corn, same thing with the pig chow. And I had the shed she was in had a little fence, and pretty much every morning when she'd see me come out of the house and I'm walking, those little squeals would start. And I'd finally get in there and there'd be a little door here, and she'd come over and I'd grab her by the ears and she'd just be, and I'd be looking at her and we'd just look at each other, and the anticipation would just build on her side. And I had a vat, and I'd put the corn in there, and I'd put the pig chow, and then I'd put a half full of water. Then I had my hoe, and I would just mix it up. And my wife now appreciates this. I love mixing things. You can always, that's my job in the kitchen. But I would mix that up, and she would be on the other side. Just the door would be going bumpa 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 bumpa, and the noises. And finally, I would finish, open it up, and I could sit there and watch her eat that all day. And when she was done, there wasn't anything that left. They had a grain or a bit of water, anything. She was perfect. And she loved eating. I loved making her food for her. Like I said, it was just a delight those first 3 months. And then towards the end of August, we would go for a walk. We went on a lot of walks, but this was the enlightening walk. Now pig, they can't see very well, but they can hear and they can smell. So when I go for a walk, she would pretty much be right behind me. Every now and then she would get distracted and be smelling something, but I could call her name, boom, right up on me. We got deep in the woods and we came upon this magnificent oak tree. All these acorns on the ground, and pigs love acorns. Hammer was no exception. She was right in the middle of it, eating the acorns, just loving it. Huge smile on her face. People say, how's a pig smile? And I always say, it's in the eyes. So I'm enjoying, again, watching her eat. And it got a little long in the day, and I said, okay, we're going to wrap this up. And I made that suggestion to Hammer that it was time for us to go. And I realized, that's all it was a suggestion. She now had 200 pounds of authority behind her. And that's when I realized maybe I'm getting in a little bit above my head. So fall turns into, or summer turns into fall. Hammer's 200 pounds and growing. And the fence that we had built no longer could hold her, because at 200 pounds, it wasn't violent, she would just lean. And it would just, boom. So we had to electrify it. So we took and electrified the whole fence around there. And the only place that wasn't electrified was this little handle where you could unhook it. She would just sit there with her little nose under it, snorting every time you'd come. And it worked until you got an electrical storm. And I'd be at work, electrical storm would come, it knocked out the electricity. And I knew when I got home, Hammer was gonna be out of the pen, in the living room, in front of the fire, wanting to know what dinner was for. So those last 3 months ended up being difficult, to say the least. By November, she was 400 pounds. I could ride her. My feet would not touch the ground. Wow. And her escapes became more. Her appetite doubled, it tripled. And the worst thing was my neighbor had a dog, and he fed the dog outside. And she knew that there was food out there. So when she would get out, that was her whole aim, was to head over there. She almost killed his dog one time, so it became a real issue. And one of the things I found through just necessity, is that you can imagine how big she was. She's this big. And when she gets out, and she's fast, she would get out, and the pen would be there, my neighbor's house would be over there, and we'd be sitting here like this in the yard. She'd move one way, and I move like that, and I'd go back like that. And trying to hit her like this to make her move, nothing. But you could poke her, and you could control it. So the whole thing was this, and it would last 2 hours. No exaggeration, 2 hours. And I was getting tired of it, and finally my wife came to me and said, okay, you wanted to be a pig farmer. You know what comes next. So I put her in a trailer. We went to Pennsylvania. You know, it was plenty of guilt going on, but at the time, one of the things that I really worried about on that trip over there was that I just didn't want the guy that took her to be mean, to be insensitive and mean. And one of the, for me at least, the best thing was when I pulled that trailer up and let her out, the guy, he was gruff looking, but he was a sweet, gentle man. And I just, yeah, I feel blessed. I pretty much guess he did the deed, but he still was gentle in the process. So 2 weeks later, back in my car, heading back to Pennsylvania, walk into the office, guy says, okay, got her right back here. And walk in the back, there's the table. 2 Boston butts, 2 hams, a rack of lamb, a rack of ribs, pork chops, the whole thing, all wrapped up neatly. Put it in a bag, at home. On the way home, you know, again, guilt. Am I ever gonna be able to eat this? Am I ever gonna eat meat again? Pull into the house. My wife knows that I'm gonna be a mess, so I grab the 2 bags of hammer. I leave one in there and go up, and I put them on the porch. She gives me a hug, and that hug was the only moment that Peanut needed. In a complete act of vengeance, he dashes up, grabs a ham steak, and runs out into the yard. And talk about smiling, that dog was smiling from head to toe, and it didn't care. He was getting his vengeance on this animal that had intruded on his life. You know, and I thought about a story like this, you know, does it have a point? Does it have a moral to it? Clearly, how you feel about eating meat comes to mind. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you have every bit of evidence you'll ever need. This was a loving, caring, sweet, sentient animal, and it was everything that you love about anybody. And to think about the way her sisters most likely were treated and her cousins, it's gruesome. If you're a carnivore and you can come to grips with the fact that we have to feed 7 billion people, and this is part of the process, then you deal with understanding how the people that handle this, the people that do this as a living. All I know is that when I went to take that piece of meat away from my dog, all I could say was, that looks pretty yummy to me.